order the Tipton Community School Corporation School Board Public Work Session. First on the agenda tonight is our friends from Policy Analytics and their presentation. So, April.
Well, thank you for having me again.
You bet.
When I pulled in, I thought, well, this was one of the very first board meetings I came to, representing Policy Analytics with my colleague Barry Gardner. So I'm excited to be back and deliver some actions.
Yeah, there we go.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay, perfect.
Love the
Thank
green
you,
light.
Eric.
We are so happy
Good
when you see the
catch.
green light.
Yes. Well, again, thank you for having me, and we will kind of work through the presentation today. First kind of steps of the presentation, we'll talk about Senate Enrolled Act 1, the impact to the district, and some closer to actuals that we have. I know when we were here last time, we kind of talked about some assumptions that were going to happen, and then we'll talk about the impact to the district, and then we'll talk about cash flows and what the impact from Senate Enrolled Act 1 has made on the cash flows and where that's headed. Kind of like you said, a little state of the school a little sooner, or talking revenue wise or where the cash flows are going. So I'm gonna let you kind of slide to the first piece of the presentation here. So I know it's been a little bit, and I know we hear SEA 1, but a lot of people don't know every little piece of it because there's a lot of moving parts. It's over a 5-year time period. There are new deductions being phased in. We've got the homestead deductions increasing over the next 5 years. The 2% tax cap category, they have deductions that were not there prior being implemented and phased in until 2031. Then we have kind of a new deduction floor. And then we have credits. So we move from deductions to credits. And these credits are on the property taxpayers' liability. We'll talk about what that impact is to the district as we get going further. And that's a 10% or a max of $300. So it depends on your home, its assessed value, and what each individual credit will be. And that's where kind of the differential in our reporting is because we do it on a parcel level basis. So we've pulled all of those homesteads and seen what the assessed values are and what the deductions that they've filed. We're able to pull that and give you the full report of what's actually happening in your district. Then the business personal property tax changes. So business personal property, they took the de minimis floor of anything prior to 2025, 80,000 and below was pulled out of the tax net assessed value calculation. So it was essentially tax exempt. But now from 2026 on, in 2027, it begins, anything 2 million and below is pulled out of the net assessed value calculation, business personal property equipment wise. So that does have a decent impact to the district, and talking net assessed values in 2027. The other piece of that business personal property change is the value floor. So prior to Senate Enrolled Act 1, a piece of equipment would follow the depreciation scale and stay at 30%, and it would stay at 30% and be taxed at that amount. Well, now it can follow the depreciation scale close to 0. And so now we know that businesses are going to get creative because any new equipment purchase, or if they may create an LLC and transfer it over and it becomes new equipment to them, then that will essentially follow the depreciation scale and go past that 30%. So that's not in our calculations because we don't know what businesses are going to do, but we know they're going to get creative. Legal firms have already said businesses are calling us saying, how do we get this? How do we lower what we're paying in taxes? So that's going to be coming and something to keep on our radar as we're watching net assessed value the next few years. And then we have the farmland assessment. It's going, the capitalization rate is going from 8 to 9%, and then some other smaller deduction changes that are part of SEA 1. So all of this being said, when someone meets you in the grocery store and they go, what is SEA 1? Here's a one-pager you can just pull out of your pocket and say, there's a lot to it. I'm not remembering them off the top of my head. So that's the one-pager we've created for you to use. So let's go to the next slide and say, actually 2 slides. So look at what oh, it did not translate well to PDF, but looking at
Oh, my.
gross assessed value. So we should have a little pie chart in the corner there that models the gross assessed value for the district. Is yours showing up?
Mhm.
Okay,
No, it's not in there.
okay. We will get this resent and make sure you can
Yeah.
see it going forward. So,
I'm gonna relinquish the screen and Scott's got the one that you guys sent directly.
okay, perfect.
So,
Somehow it got lost in translation.
you never know what happens with the world of PDF.
Yes, yes. So what we'll talk about first here when we get it pulled up is the gross assessed value. And really, we're starting with gross assessed value because it's the first part of the calculation to get to our revenues. So if we talk gross assessed value, then we take out deductions, that establishes our net assessed value. And if you remember the calculation, net assessed value times your tax rate gets you your certified levies. So starting with the foundation of what's been happening to gross assessed value. In 2026, we did see it grow about 3.2%. Majority of the growth we did see in residential, and that was just residential assessment growth, about 11.2%. We did see kind of some historic growth in apartment, commercial, and industrial, and that is due to the DLGF resetting the cost tables. We feel this is a one-time adjustment for 2020, pay 2026, because they hadn't done it since prior to COVID. So going forward, we don't project that the apartments, commercial, and industrial will see that large of growth going forward. Agriculture, you did see a little bit of deduction there in the gross assessed value, and the personal, that was just a large corporation that either it wasn't filed by the time we ran our report, or they closed their doors, or they were purchased by another corporation. So,
Yes.
for our record. So that's what that big change in that. So overall, still seeing gross assessed value growth. Okay, thank you. And so what does that look like for the district? I'll try the next slide going forward. So as we've seen, oh, sorry.
Nope, it's all right. Yeah, we moved it on you. We changed it. Sorry.
So gross assessed value, what's been happening and what we're expecting to trend going forward. So you can see that heartbeat chart, it's gone up over the past 10 years. And what this does is the gross assessed value follows the market trend, the housing market, and the sale of homes in your district. So you can see we kind of have had a lot of ups and downs there. We did see some historic growth in 2022, and then again in 2024, and then back to down about 1.1% in 25. So projecting going forward, we are basing this on a conservative basis because we do feel this is the whole point of putting these deductions and slowing this huge growth in sale prices for homes. So going forward, we are projecting your residential growth to be at about 3.8% for your gross assessed value. And talking gross assessed value, you'll see the green line towards the green trend line towards the top. That is your gross assessed value. And historically, net assessed value has kind of grown parallel with it. Well, until 2026, where these new deductions start to phase in, that's where we see that separation of the gross assessed value and the net assessed value. Because that is gross assessed value minus the deductions gives us our net assessed value. And so as we look from 2027 to 2031, as you see the deductions are growing at more of a rapid rate than by the time we hit 2032, that's why we see that driving down of that net assessed value, and then in 2032 start to see that trend upward. So for the next 5 years, we do project an average of about negative 3.4%. That doesn't mean every year is about a 3.4% negative. It just means on average. We will see the first year, and it might be on the next slide. The first, actually, let's go maybe 2 or 3 slides where it projects the net assessed value, and then we'll go back. Okay, so yes, so this is just another visual of the net assessed value, where it has been. We saw the historic growth in net assessed value. You did have a few years of declining in the early 2017, 18, and 19. So going forward in 2027, we do project that decrease, and that is due to that business personal property being pulled out of the net assessed value calculation. And that is about 30 businesses, and then about $55 to $56 million being pulled out of the net assessed value calculation. So that's that main driver that first year in 2027 to drive down that net assessed value. And then you see more of, not as huge a spike in net assessed value, but that is just due to those deductions growing over time until 2032. And then we start to see that net assessed value kind of settle out and more of a natural, slow, a normal pace of about 2 to 3% growth. So I'll have you go back 2 slides, Scott. And this is just what we're talking about the business personal property. So you can see in the top chart, or the top donut, we'll call it, there's about 30 businesses inside of the overall business personal property parcels. That's about 4%, and it makes up about, it makes up about 56 million, so about 33% of your overall business personal property. So that's that big driver of that net assessed value decreasing in 2026. And then I'll have you go to the next slide, and just to talk about farmland AV, you can see where the historical trend has been. We will see that little bit of dip. We did see the little bit of dip in 26, just because we had a larger amount roll off. And then we start to see that trend upward until about 28. Then we start to forecast pretty much a little, call it a leveling off until 2035 for farmland AV. So I'll let you go maybe 2 slides. Okay, so talking about deductions, gross assessed value, net assessed value, now we're going to kind of transition to revenues. And, gross assessed value, the net assessed value starts to, build that calculation to tell us what's going to be happening to our revenues, our certified levies. But we also then have to talk about our unfunded credits or circuit breaker loss, because it's net assessed value times your tax rate gets you your certified levy. Then you have to back out these unfunded credits to get you your net levy. So lots of mathematical calculation to get where we need to go. So this is a great one-pager of the unfunded credits for traditional circuit breaker that impacts the district. You can see in 2025, the navy blue is the traditional circuit breaker loss to the operations fund. The orange is debt service. It only had some small unfunded credits because the debt service was protected from the traditional circuit breaker, is currently protected from the traditional circuit breaker. What it's currently not protected from is the 10% or $300 max credit that begins in 2026. So as you see, from 25 to 26, you'll see your traditional circuit breaker grows slightly, 476K up to 542K. But where that additional growth is from, in the blue with the lines through it, is your operations unfunded credits, that 10% or $300 max credit. And then the orange is the impact to the debt service fund. So if we're going to look at this as a whole, you will be receiving approximately $334,000 less in revenue in 25 to 26 due to these unfunded credits. 137 will impact the debt service, 161 additional goes to operations fund. And that's how it's in statute right now. There is legislation to now protect the debt service fund, and it is written beginning July 1st of 2026. But we don't know if that's going to protect the debt service fund at the end of 26, because you get one property tax installment in June, and then you get the other in December. So where are they going to protect that debt service fund? So for just simple math, we're just telling our school districts just to plan on it in your debt service fund. If it changes, we'll address it then for 2026, but definitely prepare for it in 27 to impact that operations fund. So if we then take a look at 2027, you will grow from 2035 at about 476,000 impacting your operations fund to almost 990,000 impacting your operations fund in unfunded revenue. And that just would continue to grow year after year up to, let's see, 1.2 million in 2031, and then 1.4 million in 2035. So looking at that growth over the next few years, that's what has us concerned for school districts, because it's a real decrease in revenue. Revenue that you would have received if not for Senate Rolled Act 1 for a portion of it, and then you're also your traditional circuit breaker that you've had prior, but it's just going to grow over the next few years. Because with those deductions, drive some homeowners below the tax caps, but it looks like with this growth, there's a lot close to their tax cap, and it's just going to start to continue to push homeowners as their assessed values grow over the tax cap of the district. So talking revenues, or unfunded revenues, what does that look like as a whole? So what we're going to model here on this chart is what is the certified levy backing out the unfunded credits get you for your net levy, which is your actual revenue as a district in your debt service and operations fund. And so for the assumptions in this model, we have taken the debt service levy from the debt service levies from Baker Tilly. That's who you work with to issue your debt. And then we've taken the operations fund certified levies and held them constant at about 4% on that certified levy. The operations levy used to follow the MLGQ and would adjust non-farmland rolling average, but now they've capped us at 4%. We're modeling that at 4%. If they come back and make a change in that, then we would see a differential in that operations levy. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but we always can hope, right? So when we're looking at our certified levies, you can see, your operations is about 4 million and then 4.1 in 2026. But then if you take a look at your unfunded credits, you have to subtract that out. And if we really focus in on the operations fund, because there were just minimal credits in 2025, you can see operations fund in 2025 was about 3.5 million. If we look at 26, that's when we look at, okay, we are essentially dipping down in our operations revenue from about 3.5 to about 3.4. Like, okay, we'll call that a slight decrease, not that huge of a hit, but you're in an operations fund which has highly inflationary expenditures. Fuel's not going down, buses are not going down in price, utilities are definitely not going down, and those are things that you have to operate. So when we're looking at 25 to 26, a slight decrease in revenue. But if you look at 2027, so you're like, okay, well, we'll be flatlined in 27, 3.4, 3.4. But that's when we have to add in that unfunded, or subtract out that additional unfunded credit to that debt service fund. And for quick math, let's just say it's 130,000. So then you're down to about 3.36 million. So you will essentially have less revenue in 26, in 27, and then for quick math, if we subtract out 140K from 2028, you're at about 3.3 again, and then another 140K from 3.6 million in 2029. You're right about 3.4. So main focus of this impact is on that operations fund. Due to those unfunded credits, your district will see relatively flatline, slightly decreased revenue in 26, 27, 28, and 29. And then potentially in 2030, you could see that increase. So that's where the main concern is. Those unfunded credits creating less revenue into that operations fund when it's already a tight fund already. And then kind of the fun mechanics of the net assessed value calculation. As those are happening, revenues are flatlined, net assessed values are dragging down, You have a net assessed value, you have to times it by the tax rate to get those levies. Well, even with those levies decreasing, the tax rate does have to increase just to maintain those decreased revenues. Just the mechanics of the net assessed value decreasing. So that's where it kind of focuses to more of a levy-based scenario, and districts are looking at that kind of philosophy just to continue to generate revenues that they would have, or that they can maintain at a flat line rate, or they're increasing even higher to help offset some operational expenditure growth. So, so looking at this slide here, kind of summed up, yes, our certified levies are growing, but our unfunded credits are growing, so our net levies are flatlining and decreasing. And our tax rates are increasing to keep up with just those decreased or flatlined revenues. So then, forecasting revenues is just the beginning. So as a former CFO, I'm like, okay, telling me what my revenue is great, but what is the other piece that goes along with it? Oh, I skipped this slide, but I'm going to back up a second here. So as we're talking about our revenues flatlining, net assessed values decreasing, what is happening to the taxpayer? So as you can see here, we've modeled a median homestead taxpayer for Cicero Township. This is about 38.4 of your tax base. This homeowner, you can see that their liability is trending to continue to climb because we did not change the assessment system. The homes are still going to be assessed, and there is still a projection of gross, yes, growth. You do see that they have net assessed value growth maybe less than what they would have prior to Senate Enrolled Act 1, because you see the supplemental deduction is higher in 26 than it was, but their gross assessed value is much higher in 26. But then when we look at the total tax liability, you can see their gross liability, then the lit property tax replacement credit. They receive, let's just say, $117,000 in 2026, and then the post the 10% or $300 max credit is beginning in 26, and for this homeowner, it's just under $108. So the I don't want to call this the fun piece of this is here their liability is still trending to go up, but you'll see from 27 to 28 comes the other wrench that has come into play is the lit changes, the local income tax. So your county does apply property tax relief credit to the homeowners, and you do see that on the bill there. So when we go from 27 to 28, probably by 28, maybe this homeowner would have been receiving, let's just say quickly, $125 in credits. That's going away. So then they will have to make up that property tax replacement credit on their tax liability. So just wanted to model to show you what's happening to your local taxpayers when they say that they're still paying more. Yes, maybe they're not paying as much as they would have, maybe $108 less than what they would have, but that's where that homestead credit comes in play. So now talking cash flows. So like I said, the revenue forecasts are just one piece of the puzzle. You have expenditures going on, you have historical data. So when you take your cash flows and put together some assumptions, some future assumptions, what does that look like? So just to kind of give you the lay of the land, currently in these assumptions, we have a 1.5% education fund state tuition annual increase. That's with pretty much a flat line ADM student count. That's just hoping that the state gives us about a 1.5% increase. Operations fund, we do have the specified debt scenario from Baker Tilly. We do not have the debt service fund being protected in these specific cash flows because it's not in law yet. Once that happens, we will start adding them. But for quick math, you could just take $140,000 off the ending cash balance as we're looking at this. So as you can see, in 2025, we did have a deficit in expenditures of about 386K, and that deficit is projected to continue forward. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention in the expenditures assumptions, we do have a 2% salary and benefit increase assumption inside of there, and about 3 to 5% for utilities built in as well. So it's not just a flat line in expenditures forecast. We are projecting that increase in expenditures. So looking across the board here, you can definitely see where that waterfall starts to trend downward, projecting in 2026, 2027, and then almost to zero in 2028. And that is with including rainy day fund in those overall totals.
Can I ask you a quick question? As you modeled this, where did you get the 3 to 5% utility expenditure?
Yeah.
The state average has been 17% since 2022. Our personal hit has been 38%. So,
Gotcha.
but the state average has been 17%. Do you know where that 3 to 5 came? Is that wishful thinking, or is that?
Well, I think it's just yes and no. I think it's just us kind of being
Okay.
conservative, that we don't want to overstate anyone anywhere, because it kind of depends on where you're at. And if you're in an area that has some solar or wind turbines to help offset those utility costs, we kind of just do it on average. But we do work with the district, and we've worked with your internal team to say, you know, what do you think your utility bill is going to be? So, you know, working with them constantly. I know some districts, like in northern Indiana, NIPSCO, I'm not sure if NIPSCO comes down, is NIPSCO down here? No. But NIPSCO was seeing a 10% one year and 16 another. And so we work those into the cash flows.
Okay.
And so that's something we can monitor and then adjust in the cash flows as well as we go along. So
Okay.
thank you for that question, because those are things that you can't control, and they're just like, here's your bill.
Yeah. So it's just to me, it was just a big,
Yeah.
like if we're modeling 5% and our reality is 17,
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
that I understand the curve gets steeper and that's not a pretty chart, but it is more realistic of where we've been sitting.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. And I'll touch base with Brooke later this week, and we'll just make sure we've got those narrowed in
perfect.
for you. So looking at this baseline, yes, we're saying, okay, we do have some assumptions for growth and expenditures, but they're not anything astronomical or outside of a conservative forecast. And so by 2028 is where we see that negative cash balance in education and operations. 2029, you would have eaten through your rainy day fund and be in a negative cash balance. So looking at this, you can see that if we're on the trend of, or if we're staying on the train, it's definitely going to be going over the hill if we stay going this direction. I'll let you go to the next slide. We just wanted to model this next scenario because I know districts across the state, we want to pay our staff, we want to pay our teachers, we wanted to see what would these larger increases look like to the cash balance. If we were to give the larger increases you can see in expenditures for certified support staff and then health insurance, you could see where that waterfall trend, it goes over the cliff much sooner. So in 2027, you would be negative about I'm going to round up to 1.7 million in education and operations. And again, the debt service fund is not protected, so take an additional 140K off of that. So just giving you a visual, if we gave those large increases in school year 27 and then going forward, we maintained a 2% increase. That's what the waterfall chart would look like. So that's the good thing about policy analytics cash flows is you can play with it and put whatever you want to see in it. You can pull it out, put more in, and we can show you what will happen to that waterfall chart. And so that's where it gets us kind of to this next slide, this Venn diagram. So for schools to help kind of offset that waterfall chart, we've got a couple of options. One, operating referendum. I know that's not the first thing that any district wants to look at, but it is the only way to generate additional revenue for the district. And then two is cost reductions. So as you can see, we had compounding expenditures year after year and adding a 2% increase. But if the district were to just, go to the whiteboard and say, here's all these cuts to programming and staffing, that are gonna be, could be detrimental to the district, but just to make that cash balance up, that's where those tough decisions would have to start, tough conversations would have to begin to start, looking at cost reduction. And then potentially there's that combination of both. So cost reductions and a potential operating referendum. So those are your two options to offset that waterfall chart to either maintain those cash balances or continue the programs that you're doing, continuing to support your teachers and your support staff. So we wanted to just model another example of, going back to the cash flows and modeling what 2 million in cuts would do for the district. So we started in the fall of 2026, cutting about 2 million over the next 3 years. And you can see what that does to the compounding expenditures. It really slows it down in the beginning, and then it's a slower speed forward. So that's where that surplus deficit really slows down. You'll be able to maintain those cash balances relatively flat, but that means a huge cut in 3 years for your district. So modeling this, we just wanted to say this is what this cash flow would look like by putting in that additional scenario. And again, the debt service fund is not protected in this. So additionally, another 140K off those cash balances. So you've heard me talk a lot. What questions can I answer for you guys?
The debt services number goes over the 40 cents in 27.
Yeah, potentially.
Oh.
Yes.
Aren't, like, I don't know what the right word is. Isn't there a bylaw rule, whatever, that we're capped at 40 cents? Do we have to do something?
Now, the only difference in the 40 cents is if you were to do issue debt for GO bonds or leases, you'd have to have 2 hearings instead of just going straight to issuance. So between 40 cents and 70 cents now, you would have to have 2 hearings. That's the only differential. And this is potential, like, that's where we just highlight that it potentially could go as Baker Tilly works with the team and works on their actual debt structure, and that may.
It's all an educated guess.
Yes.
But
Yep.
is that based on our current debt? That's if we don't take any more debt. We'll be
That's
42, 43.
right. Because of the AV going down, our rate will continue to climb.
But that's the new rule about the 2 hearings. That you
right.
go over.
That would be what used to be called the petition remonstrance.
Yep.
And so that, again, if we were issuing additional debt,
Yeah.
that would be the way that would work.
I have a wild question.
Okay.
What if we do everything we can to cut, because we've been meeting and trying to cut,
Yeah.
and we're just short. We're short $700,000 next year. I mean, do they come and arrest us? I'm like, what? Like, the debtor's prison? Like, no, I mean, it's
No,
a silly question, but seriously, like,
Yeah.
okay, you cut our money.
Yeah.
Right.
We have utilities and teachers to pay and books to buy, and we're short. Like, I don't know.
So I'll say the legal option, if you are defaulting in revenue, DUAB would come in and take over
Yep.
the district.
Okay.
But I'll let you mention there's an additional revenue generation
Right,
source. And,
right.
um,
And that would be the discussion of that referendum type of, trigger. She's exactly right. If we go to the point where they watch our cash balances at DUAB like crazy.
Yeah, I hear
And-
Brooks reports. But
Yeah, exactly.
you do a good job.
Exactly. So they would actually come in and take over. Now, I will say that DUAB doesn't like to do that.
Right.
And that's the reason why that organization exists, is to keep that from happening. But my guess is there would be a state intervention before things got too
I'm not
bad.
suggesting we do that.
Yes.
I know, but I'm just saying, no.
Like-
I think it's a most excellent question, because I think people
there's
need to
gonna be
understand
districts
that.
This happens to.
Oh, it is. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Now, I have another question. Do you know what House Bill 1288 is?
1288.
To eliminate property taxes completely. It's
I
it's a
know.
real thing.
I know.
Is there any chance that goes anywhere, not this year, next year? There are 5 states
Yeah.
proposing the elimination of property taxes. Then all this is mute because
Yeah. I don't want to give the incorrect answer, so I will just say, no, I am not, highly familiar with that, and I cannot tell you which direction it's going to go.
I would guess it's out there to see what kind of reaction it's going to get.
It's
but
ex-
it's
they're
out
testing the waters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did look up when you brought that up. I looked it up, and I think that calls for an additional increase to sales tax and some other. And we
Yeah,
already
it's-
have one of the highest sales taxes in the country. I would just find that to be
And it
something
looks
that
like
would
it would offload a lot more local taxes.
Yes.
I mean, no
Yeah.
taxes are going to go down. But,
right.
And that's the thing is, if you take it from somewhere, it's gotta come from somewhere else, no matter what you do.
Exactly.
And so even with this, yes, Senate Rolled Act One, a little bit of decrease for deductions, and then a small homestead credit, but that money still has to be made up. We've still got to educate kids. We've got to operate our buildings. We've got to get kids to the classroom and keep them in the classroom. So that's where the difficult thing is. It's got to come from somewhere. Yes, you can tighten your belt, but there's only so
Yeah.
much. There's only so many belt rings to tighten through all of this.
So how do we know, like for my township, our tax rate last year was 1.42%? So we're not at the tax cap. So how do we know that then the county or the city won't just raise it to the cap?
That's a great question. But unfortunately, we don't know what they'll do. But there is that $3 discussion out there of pushing all tax rates to $3. But when you're at $1.40, that's a huge growth for those homeowners. And I'm not sure where that's going to go legislation wise, but that is kind of in discussion. But you're right. We don't know what the other municipalities will do. What we can control is what you do as a district and where that management or the board wants to managing that levy.
That's what I'm really talking about referendums, and we go that route, and then we're taxed even more if we're not at the tax cap.
I mean, that risk is out there. I think it's just hard to predict what other entities are going to do, and that's why we have to be incredibly transparent with how we are spending our money, how we are moving forward, because again, I think the transparency part is the more critical of anything, because and this is why, we're having policy analytics here. This is why we're having these discussions, because we want to be completely transparent. And it's not like, we're trying to figure out how to, keep our staff, too many people on staff, keep our budgets bloated. We're in this to look at how we can reduce, to make sure that we're being as physically responsible as possible. But there's only a point where that can matter until the school is going to look very different than what it does right now, with programming and what's offered and really what our kids are able to do, which again can continue to cause other issues, because if there's programs that we're not able to offer that others are, kids are going to walk. And so, I mean, there's a cycle here that could get worse. So again, I think we just have to be very transparent in how we're talking about things, and we can't really control what the other entities decide to do, but we can control our narrative and how we're explaining where we are.
I have about 4 questions. First of all, the rate of the referendum, if we decide to do that, do we set it at a higher than expected we need it, or do we set it just at the bare minimum? That's one question. So you talked about industry. So what would help this, clarify this for me, is if we had more housing, if we had more solar, and if we had more wind?
Potentially, depending on if it were tipped or not, because if it's tipped, it doesn't grow the net assessed value for 20, 25 years. But yes, obviously, if there's more industrial, commercial growth, more residential growth, that would help increase that net assessed value. The difficult thing right now is net assessed value begins to be capped on those tip areas.
Oh, I don't like tips. So.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things. It's you're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't.
Right.
Because yes, you
Right.
get new housing, but you wrap up that AB for a number of years. And so I'll quickly mention your first question. That's kind of an organic growing process. When you start talking referendum, that's a lot of discussion and meetings and diving in, looking at cash flows, looking at priorities, looking at cost reductions. And then that's when you'll look at multiple rates and levies, and then you would narrow in the strategy that you would do. So working with districts across the state, it's June will be here, but before we know it, and we know are super busy because it's multiple meetings, because it's not an easy decision. It's very difficult, and there's a lot of things to look at.
To
Okay.
answer your question, I think that we would have a max levy, but we probably wouldn't be at that. We may have a year that we would be at that max levy, because once the AB resets and begins to grow again, then that rate would come down.
Okay.
But that's really till 2031. So we would advertise a max levy, but we would not issue the max levy. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Okay. Then, when you speak of parcels, okay, so as a farmer, I might have one parcel that's 10 acres. I might have another parcel that's 500 acres.
Yeah.
So those parcels are going to be assessed at the same?
No, they would be assessed separately.
It's an
They are
individual, this
assessed.
is an individual, and then this one is an individual. So it's gonna be the same amount of money for whether you've got 10 acres or
Mhm.
500?
Are you talking the referendum?
No, I'm talking about on property taxes.
Property taxes, I guess it would depend how it is filed. Gosh, you got me there.
Well, the reason I ask is because, you say, let's say you say, yeah, as a farmer, you own 1,000 acres, okay? Well, you could have 1,000 parcels,
Okay.
okay?
so-
Or you could have 2 parcels.
Yeah, so depending on the parcel, each parcel would have its own net assessed value. So then that's what they would be set to their liability would be based on that parcel.
So it wouldn't matter if it was 5 acres or 500 acres, it would just be a parcel, and then
Yes.
that math would be applied to the parcel regardless of the acreage. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
Does that make
Yep.
more sense?
So like if I live in a $300,000 home and my next door neighbor is a $100,000 home, we have different liabilities.
Sure.
Because of different assessment, and farmland would be similar to that on a parcel basis.
I'm just gonna be paying more for more acres.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like you'd pay more based upon your house being worth more. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Is that all 4?
Oh, no, the
Get a
last,
bonus round.
no.
Bonus round.
The last one wasn't really a question, but I had brought up before in discussions how shouldn't we have the mayor and the county commissioners here right now? When do we bring them in?
See what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about being transparent, why aren't they here now?
They have been aware of our situation, and we've invited them to be present I have in the past, put out on Facebook again 2 times this week that this meeting was happening. And, you know, you can't force people to be here. And the other thing is that I don't think there's a genuine concern from that perspective, because we have to ask the public to raise their taxes. They just get to vote on it. And so I don't think we are in the same storm, but again, we're in different boats, right? They could get 3 people or 5 people on the council and they raise taxes. We have to go out and ask the public for this. And so we're working on the same problem, but we have 2 very different toolboxes in order to do this. So, and that would be my perspective. I've stood up in front of the city council the last 2 years and indicated what was happening to our ADM, what was happening to our operations fund and all this. And, you know, asked where housing was, asked where economic development is. So we can continue to invite them. I've invited our state representatives and our senator here. Why aren't they here? Right? Like, I mean, if we want to go down that path, we can start inviting people. But this was my hope is what we needed to educate ourselves and then understand we're kind of in a different situation that they are. If you listen to the city council meeting on Monday, they're talking wheel taxes. The public safety meeting, they're talking fire lit taxes, because now the fire department's leaving and going into Sharpsville to make a run. So there's tax increases coming all over the place. So I'm not sure that they're ready to broadcast that. I guess I just did. But at the end of the day, if you're paying attention to those meetings, this is happening all around. They're not worried about what we're doing. We benefit from none of that. These TIFs pass, we get no pull through, we get nothing.
I know about TIFs.
So we can invite them, but I'm not sure the sense of urgency for solving our problem is really there.
Okay.
I think like if we knew that they were going to raise our tax rate without the tax cap, we could figure out how much revenue we would be capturing without a referendum.
They're raising, they raise their rates does not affect
Doesn't
your
affect us one bit. That's just for their
overall
services.
tax rate for the homeowner, yes, but your tax rate, your revenues, aren't impacted by what
When they raise the tax rate, it doesn't affect us.
correct, because that revenue does not. The district would have to raise the revenue, or run the referendum to increase the rate, that's what.
So the rate on our tax bill, I don't,
The rate's gone up every year.
So-
we're 54% more to the school.
Right, so you have your, you've got your school, then you have your city and town, if you have a library in your district.
Right.
So all of those other entities, yours stays the same, or follows where it has been. That's where your revenue has stayed the same or flatlined, and theirs change, they get that revenue, not the school district.
But is it fair to say the rate they paid more? She paid more because her assessed value has
That's
gone
value
up,
has grown.
but the rate has not, right?
For the school district, I can't
Correct.
speak for the.
So
other-
if her rate is, or she's paying more, it's because of her net assessed value increasing. It is the rate that has stayed stagnant, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The rate changes. 24 is 0.9093, tax rate for 25 was 0.8540 for the school.
Yeah, they look at the assessed value in the budget and then they assign that number as long as you stay under.
The total tax rate is 1.5, and it's made up of the county, Jefferson Library, solid waste, and school.
Right, so when theirs change and theirs increase, it does not, what they do does not affect the revenue that you receive. Yours is based on your tax rate alone.
and
Your
so
assessed
our,
value could go up enough that your rate goes down and you pay more money.
Right.
That's the,
no, this is a question number 5. How long has our rate been the same?
We've managed our rate pretty well. I mean, for the last 6 years I've been here, it's always stayed under that 90 cent range. And that's kind of where we've tried to be. There may be a couple of years that it was at, I think it might have been 96 cents, but for the most part, it's been under 90 cents, which is the lowest school tax rate in the region.
Everybody else is over $1.
Yes.
State average is $1.02, and it's climbing to.
Yeah.
$1.
So if we do a referendum, does that show up as a line item on our tax bill?
Yes.
Okay, going way back to the bar graph where, Stellantis caused a big hit. I don't follow as closely as Rob does, but someone has bought that building and promised to put a business in there. If they were to employ a couple hundred people, does that make that,
It will have an effect and growth in that personal property, but if you see on the chart, there's been an overall was about 3.2%. Even though that one category changed about 16.5%, the overall at 3.2 gross assessed value. So it just depends on what comes in there and what that net assessed value ends up being. So you could see growth, maybe not enough to move you into the positive net assessed value over the next, it just depends on timing. If it comes in 27, that's when that business personal property drives down the net assessed value about 7%. So I think even if they came in and grew in 2027, you're not going to see a positive net assessed value.
Just because it's always late. It's always in
Correct.
arrears. Right?
I'm gonna say that three-letter word Tammy doesn't like, the land out there that's TIF, it usually has a limit, right? A 10-year, 15-year,
There's like 20 some.
20-some. So we're nowhere near the end of,
And we have no vote to say to do anything different. We just get to sit there and pretend like it doesn't hurt us. So,
because it'd be nice if it was coming off the,
yeah.
And then once it comes off, so I'm on the county RDC, so all that tip goes to paying down the debt, right? And then once that happens, the county gets to decide what they're gonna do with that money. And historically, city and county officials have not been overly generous with tip revenue towards the school corporation. So if future or past behavior is any indicator of future, I wouldn't get all fired up about that because they've got the same problems we do. Salaries are increasing, insurance is increasing, the cost of a squad car is increasing, we just be mindful of that. But when it rolls off, Eric, it all goes back to the county and then we have to kiss the ring or do whatever you have to do to get any of that.
Which would come from the commissioners.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for having me
Thank
tonight.
you.
I really
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. And until further discussion, if you have any questions, we'll maybe know where to follow away. So thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, April.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And I think from Dr. Glaze, you are going to have to be at light speed on the state of the school. So go for it.
We might decide to do that a little bit later, but we'll try to go through. And I tell you what, Scott, why don't you just do your part? That way, it'll be just you've already got it.
I do.
Yep, go for it. You already have the.
I shortened it. I will shorten it even further. This is going to be the lightning version of the presentation we shared with our staff yesterday. Again, just trying to be as transparent and open about kind of the realities that we're facing, everything that April shared with us, kind of all that coming to a head. So we kind of start off with, acknowledging and celebrating all the good work we've done over the past few years, stemming back all the way back in 2020, working our way through a pandemic, the challenges we faced there, shifting expectations, staffing shortages, change in state requirements, all that stuff our staff were able to work through, and kind of how the next few years are going to require a lot of really strong leadership, having a lot of really difficult decisions. Careful planning is going to need to take place in order to make sure that we can continue having the schools that we do, because I can tell you, again, following April's sharing of financial data here, if we don't find a good solution, we are going to have some really fundamental changes in what Tipton Community Schools looks like in the next few years. So again, it requires a lot of stewardship and honesty, making sure we're doing right by our people, adapting to the reality that we're currently living in. The purpose of this presentation was to give an overview of how funding has changed, very district-specific implications of what that looks like for our staff and our students, how we're responding to those challenges, and then some opportunities for questions at the end. So, like I said, you guys are very familiar with this at this point. This presentation is available on the website underneath our live stream if you want to walk through this kind of step by step, but it's just a quick walkthrough of school finances. We have an education fund, operations fund, debt service fund, the source of those funds, what they are allowed to be spent on, because there are rules on school funding. It's not just a big pile of money that we can spend however we want. There are very specific rules and guardrails that prevent us from shifting it from one to the other. One thing I do want to kind of point out with this is debt service. I know this is a topic of conversation that comes up in many school districts, is when you start seeing, a renovated athletic facility, or you see a new roof, or you see a new playground. People are like, well, the school's flush with money. What are they doing with it? Why are they spending on those things? That money gets paid out of a different fund that is not allowed to be used for things like classroom materials or salaries or benefits. So just understanding school finances, it's a bit of a challenge, and something that we're going to work towards educating our community as much as we can. What's changed, this is basically what April talked about. It talks about the highlights of SCA 1 or lowlights, depending on your perspective. Again, it does a lot of great stuff for property owners, right? Lowering that cost that we see on our bills every year, that's a real thing. And that's something that our legislators have tried to do. But as April said, every decision like that has a cost. Somebody ends up paying that. And in this case, those property tax cuts end up affecting schools, because we no longer have that funding to pay for things like transportation, keeping the lights on, heating the building. I mean, those are fundamental things that we can't operate a building that doesn't have power. So we're going to pay the electric bill, regardless if we have 1,000 students or 10,000 students or 20 students. We have to pay those bills. But the problem is, when we have less money coming to us from the impacts of Senate Roll Act 1 and the inflation costs continue to go up, that hurts us. What also hurts us is the second bit of a gut punch we have is our decreasing enrollment is real. Just look back the last 10 years, we're up a popular enrollment of over 1,600, 1,642, I believe is what that says. Next year, we're projected around 1,320. That's a huge drop in just 10 years. And again, that ADM, it's hard to get those students back when we're struggling to find affordable housing for young families to come into Tipton. We're really relying on the base we have around us. This is our budget reality. This is what we're spending money on. When people are curious what it costs to operate a school district, $13.8 million is spent on personnel. Those are people that live in our community. Those are people that serve our students. Only $3.1 million spent on things that are non-personnel related. Again, things that keep the lights on, things that keep the buses running. So whenever you're talking about budget cuts and having to reduce over $2 million over 4 years, like April was telling us, that's going to affect people. That's going to affect people's livelihoods. And that's something that, those are difficult decisions that we as district leadership have to take seriously. So how are we responding? What have we done? What are we going to do? Things we've already done is we've reduced operational costs, primarily through transportation. Our reduction of corporation building budgets by 30%, reducing staff through attrition whenever possible. And then transportation fees is something that we've just recently approved this last month. Again, not everything's a big dollars, but every dollar helps, especially when you're trying to make up for a $2.7 million gap over the next 4 years. Again, there's a lot of factors going into that. There's a lot of variables that go into that number. It could end up being more, it could end up being less, but that's our best estimate right now of what we're going to need to make up in recurring costs, not one-time costs. These are over and over and over things like salaries and benefits, personnel. Those are where the biggest dollars are going to be found in our district. So as April said, there are two paths forward. We can either reduce recurring costs, or we can find ways to raise additional funding. Both of those are painful, and both of those are very difficult. But that's the options in front of us, bad and worse. So that's the reality that we're living in. This is what we need to do in order to sustain our schools. Things that we're not doing is we are not looking to cut salaries. We're not looking to cut benefits or professional development for our staff, or even reduction in capital investments that provide safe, secure learning environments for our students. Those are part of our values. Those are part of the things that are important to us as a district, things that we can't compromise on. So why we're talking about this, again, transparency matters most. Making sure that we're open with our community, open with our staff, so that everybody understands why we're making decisions, not just the fact that, hey, they did something I didn't like, I'm not unhappy with them. Well, there's a reason we have to make difficult decisions. So again, just wrapping up the things that are going to drive us moving forward over the next few years as we work through these financial challenges is stability, transparency, shared responsibility, and trust and confidence in each other, in our leadership, and our community. So that's the crash course of my presentation from yesterday.
Wow.
I apologize. I would love to go more into that. It was actually we did get some feedback, some early returns. Our staff are very appreciative of that transparency. They're appreciative that we're communicating with them early. But as you could imagine, they're also a little bit nervous because there's a lot of uncertainty ahead of us, and we can't provide timelines. I don't have a lot of specifics off the top, but I just wanted to let them know that we're going to treat this as humanely as possible. We're going to work with our staff. So.
Thank you. All right. I guess that concludes our work session.
Yes.
And we will roll right into our 6:30 board meeting. So I will call to order the Tipton Community School Corporation regular board meeting. And I'd like to begin that with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our vision statement, growing empowered, future-ready students who are prepared for a lifetime of opportunity and success. All right, this is the point in the agenda where we get to tell me something good. This is an opportunity for the board to speak into anything they've seen in the district or around the building that's been especially encouraging. So we'd open up the floor to tell us something good. I have one. So I was able to speak at the ISBA LeaderCon last Friday, and had several different school corporations come up to me mentioning our 100% graduation rate and also our attendance presentation that we did. And so I wanted to let Mr. Leach know that that work is being recognized in the other districts and those numbers. So I was really proud to be able to pass all of that praise on to that team with Mrs. Capshaw and others. But the 100% thing is a big deal. There were a lot of them in the high 90s, and they were a little frustrated. So congratulations again on that. Testimony again to the guidance department and the administration. So great work. Anybody else? I know we're going to cover a bunch during Blue Future, so we don't want to steal the thunder. All right. Moving on next to the Blue Future Awards. Dr. Glaze, I guess.
We're missing. I guess we're going to go in backwards order. So we'll. Oh,
Going high
okay.
silver.
Okay. Well, there's Sarah. Sarah's going to. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Wigington. That's right.
Okay.
You're on.
So Mr. Johnson and I received an email that we would like to read to you this evening to recognize our Blue Future Award winner. I wanted to take a moment to reach out and share how truly appreciated and value my daughter's teacher, Miss Nightenhilser, is to our family. From the very beginning of the school year, it has been clear how deeply she cares about each of her students. She creates a classroom environment where students feel safe, supported, and confident. And that care extends just as strongly to the parents. She's incredibly easy to talk to, approachable, and open, whether it's a question, a concern, or simply an update. Her communication is outstanding, so much so that I rarely even have a question, and when I do, I know I can reach out and receive a thoughtful and timely response. Most importantly, Miss Nightenhauser is an exceptional teacher. My daughter has learned so much this year, and even more impressively is retaining what she's learning. Watching her confidence and academic growth as she has been incredibly reassuring, especially as a family who made a transition from homeschooling to public school. To be completely honest, we were very nervous about sending our daughter to Tipton. We had heard a lot of talk around town and carefully considered many different options. Coming from homeschool, this was a big decision for our family, and we planned to give Tipton schools a fair chance until Christmas break before reevaluating our plan. I truly believe that we are still in this district today because of Miss Nightenhauser. The experience she has provided has exceeded every expectation that we had. Knowing that this is her first year teaching, I can only imagine how challenging that must be. Despite that, she shows up every day, gives her students so much more than what is required. Her dedication, openness, and genuine love for teaching does not go unnoticed. I felt it was very important to share with you because teachers like Miss Nightenhauser deserve recognition. She is making a real difference, and we are so grateful for the impact that she has had on our daughter and on our family. Thank you for your time and for supporting teachers who clearly care so deeply about their students. So tonight, Mr. Johnson and I would like to recognize Ashley Nightenhauser.
So this morning at our weekly admin meeting, we were sharing who our Blue Future Award winners are going to be, and Craig and I realized the energy is strong with our choir department here at Tipping Community School Corporation, because both he and I are honoring our choir kids. If I could have my middle school choir kids come on up, that would be wonderful. I've got 7 kids that I'm honoring today. Here, if you guys want to go ahead, at least you might step on over there. 7 kids that I wanted to honor tonight about this award. So let me go ahead and make sure that I get all of it right, because I did have to write it down. So 6 of them are 6th grade ladies that we have here, okay? Yeah, forget you, Dean. We don't need you for a moment, okay? They are here this evening because, you guys want to turn around and face the board? I mean, great to face them, but you know, okay. They are here because they recently competed at the ISMA solo and ensemble competition. And that was not last weekend, but the weekend before, right? Okay. And so every single one of them earned gold in whatever it was that they were doing. So we had Gabby Henry, wait for us, Gabby, perfect, who sang When Will My Life Begin? Is that correct? Perfect, wonderful. We had Hope, who did You're 16 Going on 17, right?
Oh, nice.
We had PJ, who is unfortunately not here this evening, who did Can You Feel the Love Tonight, which is great. And then Sophia sang These Are a Few of My Favorite Things from The Sound of Music. So they did a wonderful job. And then the collective ensemble of Layla, Hope, Sophia, PJ, and Olivia sang from Les Mis, Castle on the Cloud. Am I correct? Right? All of them did a great job and put a lot of good work into it, and just wonderful to see that all honored with the gold ratings that they received. So, Dean, getting to you now. Okay, so Dean recently selected for something entirely different. He, if I'm not mistaken, both auditioned and then was selected for the Indiana Middle School Honors Choir, right? Okay, which then performed back in January in Fort Wayne. So one of around 150 kids that were selected or so. Yeah, So a very big deal, and obviously a recognition of just a wonderful choir program that's going on here. Unfortunately, the ringleader of the circus, Mrs. Haynes, was unable to be here to also have her, recognition for the work that she puts into this. But given the wonderful kids that we get to see as part of the fruits of that labor, obviously a program that we just love seeing, and love seeing everything that comes from it. So we'll be sad to lose Dean up to the high school next year, okay? But but for the next few years, I look forward, ladies, to seeing what it is that you guys are going to be able to do. So a big round of applause. come on over. Gabby, I got your Blue Future Award. We'll get a picture here. Olivia, here you go. Dean, here's yours. And then Layla, there it is. Hope, you've obviously got the two. And Sophia, you're welcome. You also have the two. And I will get PJ hers tomorrow. So, yeah, come on over, guys. Yeah. You're still celebrating that, PJ.
I love homecoming.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
So he kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but we did want to take some time at the high school to recognize those that went to district solo and ensemble as well. We have the two ladies, but we also have the young originals that performed at that contest as well. They're with Jenny, I think, right now doing practice. So at district and on solo and ensemble, Jocelyn Irwin finished with a gold rating. I did not pick up what you sang. Do you want to share that?
Maybe this
Oh, nice.
Cabaret. Works for that one. And then Olivia also, soloist that got a gold rating. Not sure what's on you thing as well.
Iceland.
And then Kaden Stout also finished with a gold rating, but she couldn't be here this evening. So along with that, the YOs, so the Young Originals, and Olivia will be headed off to the state competition. That'll be at Perry Meridian High School. I have the date, February 21st. So just want to take some time to congratulate these ladies and everyone that competed at district. And then I do have one more. Emerson, if you want to come on down.
It's like the Price is Right.
Yeah, I know. Emerson's no stranger to board meetings, so she's a pro at this point. If you kept up on Tipton Wrestling on Facebook or watched our Facebook page, then you know that Emerson had yet another stellar wrestling season on the girls' side. She finished with an amazing 32-3 record overall throughout the season, but then went to sectionals this year and finished first at the Hamilton Heights sectional in the 170-pound weight class. Went on to regionals to finish in second place at Kokomo in the Memorial Gym, which is really great, and then finished fourth place overall at the state competition down at the Cortiva Coliseum. So that tournament has been 2 years, and Emerson has qualified for both of those, and she's gotten just a little bit better each year. So I fully expect that next year we'll be recognizing her as a state champion. So that's
Yes.
kind of the trajectory that she's on. But I know that Emerson puts a lot of passion, time, effort, energy into what she's doing, and she always represents Tipton very well. So congratulations.
Good job. Right, well, that concludes our Blue Future Awards, and if you were here just for that part of the agenda, this is your cue to exit before you get pulled into a consent agenda and budget discussions.
Unless you want to hear about
Unless you want to hear
Yeah,
about it.
exactly.
But thank you again, and congratulations to everybody on your Blue Future Awards this month.
Thank you all.
The following item on our agenda is comments from the community. We had no one sign up this evening, so we will move straight to the consent agenda. On that, we have the approval of our agenda for this evening, the approval of minutes from the work session and our regular session and our Board of Finance on January 13th, and also our executive session minutes on January 26th. We have the approval of claims, which we have 2 payroll claims, January 16th and January 30th, And we have the AP claims run for February included in that as well. We have the approval of the personnel report, which I will read at the conclusion. And we had no field trips. And we have the approval to accept donations. Those are in your packet. And again, to look and see just the overwhelming generosity of our community, and some of our small businesses that have stepped up to support. So those are in your packet for review. So if I'd be interested in a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I'd have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any questions or comments on the agenda? All right. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Our personnel report for February 10th, certified staff, we have no updates. On classified staff, we have the termination of Elijah Bogard as an athletic custodian in the high school. We have the resignation of Haley Lineberry and Sheila Lacey, cafeteria workers in the middle school. And we have a transfer of Diana Hernandez from a part-time to a regular time food service in the middle school. We do have recommendations for Connie McLaren, a third shift custodian in the elementary school. Margarita Del Carmo Santos is a cafeteria worker for the middle school. Can't believe I got that out. And then Tessa Holmes as a cafeteria worker in the middle school as well. On the ECA staff, we have the non-renewal of Elijah Bogard as a head track coach in the middle school, and the recommendation of Aaron Steiner as an assistant swim coach for our middle school. And we have the approval of a volunteer for Andy Westner as a volunteer baseball coach for the Tipton High School. That is our personnel report for February. Superintendent's report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jaworski, for having that already up. What a guy. I know. I hate when that happens. Okay, well, the roofing project, I can do this by memory, I think. The re-roofing project, they do have the top level of the auditorium completed. They've had some weather delays, let's face it. It's been just a little bit crazy here the last month. So they are working right now on the band room and the choir room sections. You might have seen them as you pulled up because they're working as long as they can today with good weather. So hopefully that'll help. They did have significant weather delays. We are now on schedule versus ahead of schedule. So we're looking at, a general completion by Memorial Day. I think there's probably some cushion in there. My guess is it's probably going to be closer to the end of April. But everything is still going well. There's a lot of complications with the auditorium roof. And I think they're kind of glad they're done with that one because that's a complicated roof system. So anyway, I am very grateful to Henshaw. I think they've done an outstanding job, and they've worked in some weather that I would not have worked in. So I do appreciate what they've been doing. The pool deck, the week of March 23rd, we intend to drain the pool and begin the deck demo. If you've been in the pool lately, you might have noticed where the paint's chipping. Since we have the paint, or we have the water out, we're going to do some warranty work on the paint. That's not going to be a cost to us. But the company's going to come in and put a different type of paint down that hopefully will not chip. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed. And then we are setting starting blocks. The Heartland Swim Club donated starting blocks. And so we will actually take up the old ones and fill in how they're mounted and actually put in brand new mounts because the new systems need a different type of mount. So that's going to happen once everything's drained and all the demo is done, and then we will put the new top over. We will ask for approval of mowing bids with the approval of the advertisement for bids later on tonight. And then Snow Makeup Day, March 26th. We did that on the Wednesday that we had to call a cancellation. We don't really like to do more than 2 e-learning days in a row. So that will probably continue to be a practice as we move forward. So we still have 1 e-learning day left. Hopefully we won't need it, but you never know. Anyway, so that'll be on March 26th, and then spring break will begin on the 27th. We've talked a little bit and shared a little bit with you in our weekly update about a retirement incentive. Mr. Jaworski and I will do a review of that during the work session in March, and then ask for your approval in the March meeting. And April, we met with the middle school ELA team earlier today, and we will have curricular material approval in April. So that'll be coming up next. And that's it for me.
Any questions for Dr. Glaze? All right, Scott, you're back up for the spotlight on schools.
See if I have any better luck with this presentation. Okay. Thank you. Tonight, I just want to spend a few minutes here going through our iLearn Checkpoint 2 results. That was recently completed here this past month. Goals to simply explain what these assessments are, why we're required to give them, what the data is telling us right now, and most importantly, how we're responding to that data. So Indiana requires school corporations to administer the 3-year iLearn checkpoints in addition to the spring iLearn summative assessment every year now. This is our first full year going through it. The iLearn summative, again, is still the official accountability assessment for our school. It's given at the end of the school year and measures overall mastery of the Indiana academic standards. iLearn checkpoints, on the other hand, are just formative assessments. All right, they're informational assessments. They're designed to give schools and families snapshots of student learning during the year rather than waiting until May to figure out how your kid's doing. Again, the checkpoints are here to help answer an important question. Are students on track now, and what do they need next? That's why the state now requires them. The intent is earlier insight, earlier support, and better instructional decisions for our staff. So just taking a look with English language arts to start, overall ELA performance is a bit mixed. We have areas of strength and areas where we know we need to improve. Several grade levels performed at or above the state average, while others were below. Again, you can see from the chart there, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 8th grade were all above state average there. One area that we want to be really transparent about is our 6th grade ELA, where, again, proficiency rate was well below state average there. Again, it's certainly not a result that we're satisfied with by any means, something that we're continuing to work on and monitor closely with the 6th grade team and building leadership to strengthen tier 1 instruction. So that first time instruction, making sure that kids are getting it the first time around, then also refining that targeted intervention for students who need additional supports beyond that tier 1 instruction. Again, this is exactly why these checkpoints exist. It allows us to identify concerns early and respond to that with support rather than waiting until at the end of the school year and time to move on to the next grade level, right? So again, that's part of the advantage of having this. Math, on the other hand, is a little different story. Very strong results here, particularly in our elementary, but also in our middle school. At the elementary level, our students performed more than 20 percentage points above the state average in each of those 3 grade levels. That is really exceptional and a strong indicator that our elementary staff are building on solid mathematical foundations for students. I think what's important to note is, we're in year 1 of our reading curriculum in the elementary. We are in year, I think, 4 now in math for both elementary and middle school for that curriculum adoption. So I think our staff have gotten pretty comfortable and familiar with the resource. I think that's helping. I think some of our instructional practices are definitely stronger. And, success breeds success when it comes to these types of tests, right? And as students have successful, we can kind of build off of that. Again, at the middle school, we saw positive results. Both 6th and 7th grade math performed above state average, which reflects that steady growth and effective instruction. Again, you'll notice the 8th grade didn't exceed the state average at this checkpoint. Not altogether unexpected. Again, at the time of testing, students had not yet received a complete instruction of all the standards assessed. That's kind of a challenge with some of these checkpoints, right? The state kind of sets these arbitrary, this is, the standards are going to be assessed at this time. And that may or may not have matched up with our current year's curriculum maps. So this actually happened in checkpoint 1 with 8th grade in particular. And when that happened, when the thing with checkpoints is they allow you to take 2 opportunities with that assessment. One time, and then you can take it at any point in the rest of the year for your second opportunity with that particular checkpoint. When we did that with the first checkpoint in the fall, we saw over a 15% jump in scores for that 8th grade group. So I think a lot of this is, just like I said before, it's informational. This is just a formative assessment. Let us know where kids are at today. And I'm very confident that, particularly in our math world, that our teachers are working with those students, providing that intentional intervention, and we should see growth from that. Again, just reinforces that critical point. The checkpoints are valuable data for us to make sure we are responding to our students' growth or lack of achievement, and we can make sure we provide them additional supports. Overall, very encouraging numbers there. Again, really excited about some of those. So the most important part of the conversation is how do you respond to it, right? I've mentioned that a few times tonight. Yesterday's Professional Development Day was actually intentionally designed to give elementary and middle school staff that time to analyze the data deeply and collaboratively. Our building administrators, with the support of our reading specialist, Mrs. Higginbotham, did an excellent job leading a detailed review of these results, not just the percentages that you see here from a high level, but actually breaking down the results standard by standard, student by student, allowing us to identify exactly where students are struggling and who's struggling and where they're excelling as well. This level of data is powerful for our staff, allows us to plan targeted interventions, like I mentioned, adjust instruction, and provide support for this specific intentional and responsive for student needs. This one I'm sharing primarily just to illustrate a pattern that I noticed because I stare at graphs too much. But between checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2, they assess entirely different standards. So comparing the two is really not great. It's apples to oranges, essentially, right? With that said, I thought it was worth noting that in nearly every grade level and each subject, our students perform better on their initial checkpoint 2 attempt than they did on their initial checkpoint 1 attempt. One possible takeaway is that both students and staff are becoming more familiar with the expectations of the iLearn style assessment and questions. Knowing the content and knowing how to demonstrate your knowledge of the content are 2 separate things. And I think sometimes that gets lost in translation with these assessments. So students can understand the material but struggle with how the question's framed. By administering these checkpoints on more than about a third of the year each time, spring, winter, fall, we're giving that repeated exposure to the platform and style of questioning, which again could help our students become more comfortable with confidence over time. But of course, I could just be overanalyzing this entirely. It's one data point, so I don't want to overreact, but I just thought it was kind of interesting to note, and also an educational point to not try to compare different checkpoints. Overall, my big takeaways, as I described, pleased with the data, but certainly not satisfied. There's definitely areas for growth and improvement in each area. Our elementary schools, again, are establishing that strong academic foundation that we expect to carry forward into the middle school years. And at the middle school level, we continue to emphasize best instructional practices, collaboration, sharing effective teaching strategies that we can build consistency across all the classrooms. When you have one subject in having success in one particular grade level, but maybe not the other two, I think that kind of screams, hey, what's working well in that classroom? How can we share that with our other staff? Again, the data helps us focus our work, refine our practice, and ultimately better serve our students. So again, that's the purpose of iLearn checkpoints, and that's how we intend to use them. Does anybody have any questions about that data you guys just?
I feel like they're showing accurate results.
You're asking if they are?
I'm asking, from checkpoint 1, I was concerned about one of my sons, and so the sheriff had kind of showed me that they wasn't necessarily working correctly the way I understood it. They would ask them below proficiency questions, and as they got those right, it would move to at proficiency and then to above proficiency, and it was showing, based on my son, that it wasn't working correctly. So I just wondered if those things have been worked out, or
I'm not intimately familiar with that level of detail of the workings of the iLearn assessments. I'm not sure if Mr. Ayers has additional insight on that.
Yeah, well, and I do look at those things pretty carefully, and obviously was able to chat with you about that. I'd have to look at each student's individual
I know
test to
it'd
be
be a
able to
lot.
kind of give that. But one thing, Mr. Jaworski mentioned the checkpoint 1, opportunity 2 that was given in math, and it's hard to always put these data points in the exact proper context. For example, when some students who did very well on checkpoint 1, opportunity 1 took it again, you would think, well, they got it the first time, they're going to get it the second time too, right? Oh no, many students dropped. They still maybe were at proficiency, but that does tell me these tests aren't perfect assessments of students' knowledge. They're affected by a variety of things. More importantly, and this is what we often emphasize with teachers, these are the kinds of questions that students are going to eventually end up getting. Are we having students practice this day in and day out in what we're doing in our classrooms? So even if maybe putting it in that context, students recognizing these aren't perfect tests, but these are good knowledge questions. And that, again, it allows us to bring it back to the instructional piece rather than point at the test, as some teachers are wont to do and say, it's a broken test. So, and that, I think, helps us to make sure that we're having appropriate conversations and contextualizing it well.
Ms. Wolford?
Curriculum wise, are we aligned in elementary and middle school on like what program we're using? Math
So
and ELA?
in math, in math, there are two separate programs. In math, the elementary is Savvis. Is it Envision? Am I thinking of something else? I can't remember the exact name, but it's Savvis, which used to be Pearson. They change their name all the time. And then the middle school is Curriculum Associates, which is the iReady Math. In the elementary for reading, we just adopted that. That is McGraw-Hill's Open Court. That's, again, our first year implementing that. And then we're currently using Amplify in the middle school, and we're about to have a reading adoption for the middle school here in next month or two.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is no, they are not aligned on there.
And I think the other side is they are aligned to their curriculum they're using. They're not necessarily aligned to these assessments, because then that would change the scope and sequence of the curricular materials, because they're not going to match. Is that what was more of what you were asking? And maybe I'm just reading into that a little too much.
My big thing is, why do we see such a huge drop from 5th grade to 6th grade, and even state average wise? But state average is not that big of a drop as
Right.
what we see in our actual students. And to me, if it's, I mean, curriculum can be part of it, but also I think it's the reliance on technology.
I think there's multiple factors that are happening in 6th grade. I think that Mr. Jaworski and I would agree on that.
Yeah.
So again,
I would say to your point, Ms. Wolfer, I would say that it's hard to pin it on one thing. To your point, from my perspective, the curriculum is a tool, just like technology is also a tool. It can be used well. It can also be used inappropriately. And that goes back to the quality teacher you have. That goes back to the type of support and professional learning that we provide that teacher. And it's also an accumulation of the skills those students have learned over time. I need to go back and look at our historical data of this particular cohort, because again, cohorts of kids kind of have different trends. Not that that's an excuse, but that's something to kind of monitor and understand when you're looking at the numbers. I would say that I don't see that as an excuse. I see that as something that we need to take on head on as a challenge. And I also want to just pull back a little bit. I want to be careful I want to respond to this data. I also don't want to overreact to this data, because again, it is a checkpoint. It is a point in time. Yes, it's concerning not being at least at state average, particularly when you see success in the earlier grade levels. But at the same time, it's a checkpoint. It's informational data. And what's more important is how we as a team respond to it. And if we're not getting growth or results from that, then we're not doing something right. That's something that we should be held accountable for.
So as we head into getting scorecards and grades from the state, where is this data pull into that formula?
Correct. Yeah.
So it really is more than an assessment tool, because we're gonna be held accountable for these.
Correct.
Okay.
So
All right.
the checkpoints don't play into it. The final summative assessment in the spring will.
Okay.
And it's not finalized. We've seen drafts of it. One thing I think is important to note is you punish is a harsh word, but I'm going to use that. You get punished if your students are not proficient or below proficiency, I should say. If they're approaching proficiency, there's a big gap between below proficiency and approaching proficiency. But approaching proficiency is like let's throw a number out, 60%, right? As opposed to below proficiencies, you get 0%. And then getting at proficiency is somewhere like 80%, and then above proficiency is the 100 or whatever, right? So kind of using that as like a gauge, again, rough numbers there because they're changing the rules. But getting kids at least approaching proficiency is huge, and growth is also a major part of the current draft of that accountability grade. So those are the areas that we're really focusing on. That's what we're emphasizing to our staff is what are we doing for our kids who are below proficiency, who are multiple grade levels behind? How are we showing growth for those kids? How are we getting them to that achievement of at least approaching proficiency, get them in the ballpark, and then we can provide more targeted instruction, get them at and above proficiency.
Any other questions for Mr. Jaworski? All right. Moving on to our department reports. In your packet is the technology report, the associate superintendent report, and Collins athletic director report, and also the Adams director of food service report. So I guess the big news out of there since Adam showed up for the meeting is that he's now allowed to serve whole milk. So I thought that was a big win for the world. Yeah. So congratulations on that. Any questions on any of the findings in the department reports?
I just wanted to ask Adam a question. We talked about Taco Tuesday, such a hit. Is that right? And
Taco Tuesday was a joke because attendance was worse on Tuesday. And I wanted Adam to fix it by doing Taco. Sorry. You weren't here when that started. It's a running joke with Adam and I.
well, I was going to suggest a Wings Wednesday.
Oh, that's a great idea. I like that. Yeah.
There you go.
No longer the worst day, I think.
What could go wrong with that?
Move to what, Monday?
Yeah.
Friday.
I love it.
Very good.
I just saw the AD's report about getting a quote for resurfacing the Inferno floor. That it just seems like
We have to do a resealing every year. That's what it is. Yeah. So yeah, it should be resealing.
Okay.
So yeah, and actually every 2 years. So we're due
Okay.
this summer to do a resealing. So we were trying to get some multiple quotes. We got one quote that was really, really high. And so we're just trying to get some multiple quotes. And again, that's just part of that maintenance.
resealing makes sense. It says resurfacing.
Yeah,
So
it should be,
that
it should be,
last a lot longer
it should be resealing. Yeah, sorry about that. Yes.
All right. Very good. All right. Moving on next, Brooke, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I just wanted to set out the 2026 budget amounts. You will see those at the 1782 notice, with the exception of education and operations, just adding on those purchase order carryover figures. So your appropriation reports will total those amounts there at the end of each line. January was our 3-pay month. We did transfer 100,000 from education to operations. And after that, ending the month with 776,874 in education, 532,748 in debt service, $818,588 in operations, and $2,035,833 in the rainy day fund. Interest came in at $20,511.24.
Very good. Thank you, Brooke. Any questions, comments for Brooke? All right. I did forward you guys an audit that Brooke's group went through, and it was impeccable. So great job to you and your team on.
Linda and
Yeah.
Jen, good job.
Great job on that. No findings is always a good way to get out of an audit.
Makes us smile.
Excellent job on that, Brooke, for you and your team. So we have no old business, new business. We do have the approval to advertise for mowing bids. I know up until today, it's been hard to believe we're going to have to start mowing grass soon. but permission is being asked to advertise for mowing bids. This would be done in time for the 2026 mowing season and would be a 2-year contract. Bids would be approved at our March board meeting, I think as Dr. Glaze referenced earlier. It is recommended that the board give permission to advertise for the mowing bids for the 26 and 27 mowing season. So I'm looking for a motion and a second to give permission to advertise for those mowing bids.
I move to approve to advertise for mowing bids.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve to advertise for the mowing bids. Are there any questions or discussion on that? All right, I do think it's important at this point for the public's perspective is that we did look at doing this ourselves as opposed to having an expenditure, and there was just no way to do this as whatever economically as it is to bid it out. So it was one of the areas that I think we looked at to say, could we get mowers and people and do it ourselves? And we just couldn't make those numbers work. So from a transparency perspective, we're not just doing this because we did it last year. We did take a look at it. So.
I also looked at goats and.
Oh, goat, that's a great idea. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the winter was a problem.
But we do have to do something with them in the winter. Yeah.
That's right.
Goat yoga. So, but I do have a motion and a second to approve the advertising of the mowing bids. Would all those in favor please signify by saying aye? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The cancellation of stale checks is next on our agenda. According to Indiana Code 5-11-10.5-2, all warrants or checks outstanding and unpaid for a period of 2 or more years as of December 31st of each year shall be declared void. The list of checks is in our packet and will be canceled upon approval. I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the cancellation of the stale checks.
I move to approve the cancellation of stale checks.
Second.
Great, I have a motion and a second to approve the cancellation of stale checks. Any questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor of canceling the stale checks, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The other matters to come before the board, we have no advisory committees scheduled at this time. And we do have a schedule of events. February 14th is Valentine's Day. February 16th is President's Day, no school. March 8th, thankfully, daylight savings time begins again. And on March 10th, we will be in this room again for our monthly board meeting. March 13th will be the end of our third 9 weeks period. And March 26th is a snow makeup day, so school will be in session that day. And then gloriously on March 27th, spring break does begin. So those are our schedule of events coming up. If there's no other matters to come before the board, I'd be looking for a motion and a second to adjourn.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
February 14th, if you don't have dinner planned,
That's
the
right.
high school football boosters are doing a chicken noodle dinner.
Oh.
They're selling tickets for $10. I think it starts at 5:30 or 6.
I think it's 5:30,
Okay,
but
so
yeah,
it's in
yeah,
the-
yeah.
It's in the cafeteria, the high
Yes.
school cafeteria. So
Awesome.
if you don't have plans for Valentine's Day.
There you go.
That's a cheap date, honestly, considering how much it costs.
And
Yeah.
entertainment. You can watch
Exactly.
Boys Fest
There you
Day.
go. I know. It's,
So we know how you're
I know-
spending your Valentine's
yeah.
Day.
I know I'll be here. so.
I'll be working. Cafeteria.
Oh, very good. Thank you for mentioning that. That's
Yeah,
great.
that's great. Thank you.
Right. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the February meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you all.